Skip it up and that up. Oh my god. You're not hallucinating, folks. Yes, you were looking at the Alienware Alpha. This is Rich Review Tech USA. And yes, I am going to finally review it after promising to review this damn thing for like, what, the past almost month now? Maybe even over a month? But anyway, yes, it is now finally time for the review. I have used the living hell out of the Alienware Alpha, and I have a lot to say. Now, what is the Alienware Alpha? Well, Alienware, this was actually going to be their Steam machine. Now, if you know the whole thing about Valve and the Steam machines, is they want to make all these kind of like small form factor PCs that use Steam OS. Valve was going to make their own kind of custom operating system, which they're still going to do. It was going to be plopped on these little small form factor computers, and they were basically meant to be living room PC gaming machines. Well, Valve decided to take a step back for a while and tweak their operating system to Steam OS, so all the hardware manufacturers were stuck with these consoles, or these PCs, I should say, and they didn't want to leave them to just collect dust on the shelf and have the hardware age inside of them, so they decided to plop them out on the market anyway. And this is this is Alienware's PC gaming console called the Alienware Alpha. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about this thing is that it's tiny. It's small. It's really, really small. It's actually 7.8 inches by 7.8 inches by 2.1 inches. This thing is super, super tiny. And it's actually, if you crack it open, I'll show some stills here, it's really a technological marvel. One thing I could say, at least on the hardware side, is Alienware knocked this thing out of the park. It was very well designed. If you look inside, you'll see they have two cooling fans, one for the CPU and one for the GPU. They're easy to pop off. It's fairly easy to get inside here. Not as easy as Alienware would like you to believe. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get the plastic to get back together, but it's easy to get inside. And on top of it too, one of the interesting things about this, before I show you around this little form factor PC, is that it actually has a full desktop LGA 1150 Intel socket in there. So in theory, you could upgrade the processor in here. They're being truthful about that. The only thing I'll say is they're telling you the truth, but not the whole truth. They say you could upgrade the processor with any Intel LGA 1150 socket compatible processor or CPU, but the thing is, if you look at the power supply here, it maxes out at 130 watts. So the sad news is you're not going to be putting a 4790K in here, because it would probably go up in smoke. So you're going to be relegated to, if you want to upgrade the processor inside your Alienware Alpha, to one of their power efficient T-series processors. So they're being truthful, but just don't expect to put some top of the line, like I said, 4790K inside of here, and expect it to run fine. So anyway, let's take a look around the unit itself. In the front here, you have two USB 2.0 ports. Okay, those are not 3.0. Over here, you have your power button. The face of it is also, this is the power button right here, the little alien head. You have very shiny fingerprint plastic. It loves to collect fingerprints. Don't know why manufacturers still want to use shiny plastic, but whatever. Also, it gets scratched already. So I just noticed a scratch in here. It gets scratched really easily. I hate shiny plastic. Just please, every manufacturer, stop using it. All right, nothing on this side. Nothing on this side. Take a look at the back here. Decent amount of I/O. You have your power. You have where you put your power. You have HDMI in, so you can kind of daisy chain HDMI. If you have another gaming console you want to put in here, you could do that if you'd like. You have HDMI out. Obviously, you know what that's for. You have optical audio out right here. You have Ethernet right here, and you have two USB 3.0 ports right over here. So a decent amount of I/O for a computer or gaming PC that is such a small form factor. Now, yes, you're going to notice a whole bunch of junk that I have on the table, but I wanted to show you what the Alienware Alpha comes with, and it does come with quite a bit. One thing you're going to get out of the box is an Xbox 360 controller. Wireless, of course, it's not the wired 360 controller, which comes with a wireless dongle, so you could set this, so if you want to use this like a PS4 or Xbox One, you can. So you just hook this up via USB, and you could use your Xbox 360 controller wirelessly. Again, it comes with both of these. It also comes, like I showed you before, the power supply, and it comes with an HDMI cable. I wish I could show you a little bit better here, but whatever, I'm limited to what I have to work with. So yeah, it comes with all the accessories you need to hook it up right out of the box. Now, here is where I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. Now, there's 4 different models of the Alienware Alpha. There are 2 i3 models. There is the entry-level i3 model, which starts for $550, which comes with a Core i3, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive, and the GTX, a kind of custom NVIDIA GTX 860M. And then they have another one which gives you a gigabyte hard drive, and I believe it goes up to 8 gigabytes RAM, but it's also still an i3. And across the board, all 4 models of the Alienware Alpha come with the custom NVIDIA GPU in here. It's the same one, the 860M. I'm going to say something that I know Kotaku said the exact opposite, is if you're interested in this, stay away from the Core i3 models. In the year 2015, there is absolutely no excuse for people to be buying computers with only dual-core processors. I see a lot of people building budget builds, and they go back and forth between a quad-core Athlon from AMD and a dual-core i3. And a lot of people choose the dual-core i3 because it has better per-core performance. But my argument against that is when there's programs out there, which it's already happening now, games and applications which require more than 2 cores, you're going to be SOL, which SOL stands for shit out of luck. I rather see you, if you're going to get this, spend the more money where it's about $750 for the Core i5 model. Or if you're building your own machine, if you're on a budget and you want to build a budget machine, go for that AMD Athlon quad core. Now, of course, there's going to be exceptions. I'm not talking about like the Broadwell quad core Atom processor. Obviously, an Intel i3 is going to have more horsepower than that. But if you have the choice between a quad core processor like from AMD that has slightly less horsepower or going for a dual core, always go for the quad core. And in my opinion, looking at the 2 models of the Alienware Alpha that have the dual-core i3 is a waste of money, because once a game comes out that requires a quad-core processor, it's already happened. If you watched the video from Linus Tech Tips where he was showing off Battlefield 3, there was actually some scenes in the game where they have some characters cut out of the game if you were using a dual-core processor. Get quad core, whether you're getting an Alienware Alpha or getting any other computer, stay away from the dual core machines. Now, this model I have here it still has the Core i5, has the quad core Core i5, but I upgraded both the RAM and the hard drive. Now, you're probably wondering why. The Core i5 comes with a 1 terabyte hard drive. Also, the second more expensive Core i3 comes with a terabyte hard drive, and the Core i7 model of this comes with a terabyte hard drive. Now, you're probably wondering, Rich, why would you upgrade it already? A terabyte hard drive is a decent amount of storage out of the box. The hard drive in these things is only 5,400 RPMs, and it's painfully slow. The RAM I just wanted to upgrade since I had to, open this up. I might as well upgrade the RAM. But I actually put in here, I put a 512 gigabyte SSD drive from Kingston. I cannot tell you. Now, it's not the CPU and the RAM, but I cannot tell you how slow, when you would power this thing on, it took forever to load up. Going through the Alpha UI, which I'll talk about in a second, which is the kind of like how they consoleize this little gaming PC, would be dog slow. Getting updates was slow. Windows updating was slow. Games loading was extremely slow. I just couldn't take it. That's one of the big downsides to this is Alienware. Why did you go with a 5,400 RPM drive? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Rich, their competition is the PS4 and Xbox One. Those have 5,400 RPM drives. But you have to realize this is still a full-fledged PC. The Xbox One and PS4 are pretty much solely meant for gaming, so they could kind of streamline the operating systems for those, so you don't feel the load times like you do on here. But that 5,400, I could not wait to get it out. And actually, what I did, I'll grab it from over here, is I used this. I got this like little hard drive kit for like $11 on Amazon. I took the 1 terabyte hard drive out, formatted it, put it in here, hook it up via USB 3.0 because this is a USB 3.0 hard drive enclosure, and this is where I store my games for the Alienware Alpha. That's a huge downside to it, is how slow the hard drive is out of the box when you get an Alpha. Now let's talk about how they tried to consoleize this real quick, and then I'll get into some benchmarks and I'll give you my final verdict. They have something called the Alpha UI. Now when you get this out of the box, you basically could go through the whole setup using the controller. I'll show you some stills of the Alpha UI here, and it works okay, but you're really going to still want to use this in the actual Windows environment, because when I use the Alpha UI, really all it is a skin to get you to Steam. It puts you into big picture mode. You could do some basic stuff with the settings. You could change the color because the face on here lights up and this corner lights up. You could change the color of the alien head, and you could change the little triangle here. You could change the colors. You set up what resolution you want it to run at, and beyond that, that's really it. And it's not really a very intuitive interface, and it's kind of slow, clunky, and honestly pointless. It was their attempt to make this be a console, but just use it in Windows. I really wasn't impressed with it at all, and I really feel it was a nice attempt, but it just didn't work out well. You're going to want to use this in the Windows 8 environment like any other computer. Just get a wireless keyboard for like 19 bucks off of Amazon, and you'll be good to go. So that's pretty much a little overview of the Alienware console, or Alienware gaming PC console, whatever Alienware and Dell want to call it. But how does it perform with games? We're going to take a look at that right now, and then I'll come back to you with my final verdict. So, benchmark number 1. We're actually looking at the Unigine Valley benchmark. Now, this was run on Ultra. The only thing I had turned off for this benchmark is anti-aliasing, which I know I'm going to see some comment warriors in the comment section complaining about. Bro, this is a brand new gaming PC. If I want a game on a PC, I want 300 times anti-aliasing. This is garbage. Then this thing isn't for you. An 860M from NVIDIA is not going to do anti-aliasing in every single thing maxed out, but I still find it very impressive that with everything on full tilt, minus anti-aliasing, that was the only thing turned off, the FPS I got was 36.9, and the total score was 1544 for the Unigine Valley benchmark, with the minimum FPS, which you kind of can't go by this because sometimes if the hard drive accesses something, it drops down to like 2 frames per second, but it was 15.8, and the maximum FPS was 67.9. So not bad for a tiny little gaming computer. Not bad scores at all. Now this benchmark is Batman Arkham Origins, and the Alienware Alpha impressed the hell out of me when I ran this benchmark, because again, I had everything maxed out except for 2 things, but the fact that I can even run one of them still impressed me. I had anti-aliasing off. Okay, I know that bums out a lot of people, but I had physics, hardware accelerated physics on normal, and usually when you go to like the mid-range or lower end graphics cards, physics usually kills, if you have an NVIDIA card anyway, because obviously AMD cards don't run physics natively. Physics kills graphics card. Hardware accelerated physics destroys them. And this actually did Batman Arkham Origins with physics on. You're seeing it right here. Here's the benchmark scores. It had a minimum frames per second of 14, but again, that was when it was transitioning scenes and the hard drive was accessing. Maximum was 89, and the average frame rate with physics on, not on ultra, but it was on normal, was 65 frames per second. So you're hitting that holy grail average of 60 frames per second or above with virtually everything maxed out on the Alienware Alpha playing Batman Arkham Origins. Color me impressed. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty damn impressive. Now we're looking at the Unigine Heaven benchmark, which is still a super punishing benchmark on PC gaming hardware. Now this benchmark, I had everything on Ultra. The only thing I had turned off again, was anti-aliasing, and I had tessellation on normal, because when you had tessellation maxed out, to be honest with you, on the Alienware Alpha, it was a slideshow. So normal, everything else maxed out, no anti-aliasing. I still got a pretty damn decent score. Again, this is a really demanding benchmark. The average FPS for this benchmark was 34 frames per second. The score was 857. The minimum frames per second was 16.8, and the maximum frames per second was 65.5. So not a bad showing again for the Alienware Alpha when it comes to the Unigine Heaven benchmark. Now for shits and giggles, I decided to run Cinebench to see how capable the CPU is inside of the Alienware Alpha, and the results I got for the Intel Core i5-4590T were eh. It always averaged around 380 for the score, and it pretty much ranked at the bottom on the ranking list it has down at the bottom of the Cinebench list. So I wasn't too impressed with that. I expected a little more out of the Core i5 that was in this little microcomputer. OpenGL for the graphics processor, it did pretty good. It got about 85 frames per second, so that wasn't too bad. I just expected this to give me better results when it came to the CPU, so wasn't too thrilled about that. I expected a little more from a quad-core i5. But anyway, I could sit here running benchmarks all day and make this video 4 hours long, but now it's time for my final verdict. Alright, this is going to be the toughest final verdict I've ever had to give on a product I had to review, because I love this thing, but I still cannot recommend it to a certain demographic at all. I think the hardware, this thing was very well built. I think Alienware nailed it hardware-wise out of the park. I'll show you another still now. How the engineers designed the internals of this, and how they actually still somehow made this thing as small as it is and still fit a full LGA 1150 socket in there is amazing. Hardware-wise, they really, really killed it. But the reality of it is, if this machine was designed to try to bring people over from console gaming to PC gaming, it's not going to do it. You have to use this. The Alpha UI is pretty much a gimmick. It's a very limited gimmick. It tries to make PC gaming more console-like, but it just doesn't do it. And you're still going to have to use this as a PC. You're going to have to get a wireless keyboard, and that's the way to get the best experience out of this. So for people who are looking to buy this as a substitute for a console, it fails. You're going to want to go back out and buy. Do not buy this. If you're debating between this and a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, stop debating, ignore this thing completely. Go out and get yourself a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. Where I love this thing is, I think people that may still want to look at it is if gaming to you is something secondary, you want something really small and powerful. Okay, even though I kind of showed you a Cinebench, I ran Cinebench on here, and this i5 didn't impress me too much, but it's still more than capable enough. If you want a machine that you could run like Photoshop on, do video editing on, and occasionally game on, and know that you have that dedicated graphics processor to back you up when you're doing video editing and photo editing, this may be something to think about, because not only could you play the occasional game here and there, and maybe you're, a college kid who just got out of college and you have an apartment and space is at a premium, you have a pretty decent content creation device here for $750. And in some ways, this is actually more portable than a laptop. I mean, yeah, okay, you don't have a screen and a laptop's all encompassing. You take it out of a bag. But say you're going somewhere and you know they're going to have a flat screen. You know they're going to have an HDMI compatible flat screen. All you're going to do is bring your mouse and keyboard and bring an HDMI cable and the hookups for this. And in 2 minutes, you'll be good to go. So that's something to think about. If you're looking for this for more than just gaming, I think this may be a pretty cool thing. This may be a pretty cool device to have around. It's a nice complement gaming PC and content creation PC. That's where I think this thing may actually have a market. Another thing I want to mention that I think was a huge fail for Alienware, though. And I know my final verdict here is kind of convoluted because I'm kind of recommending it and kind of not, but this one bothered me a lot. Two things bother me. One, the fact that the entry-level Alienware Alpha to the top of the line Alienware Alpha all have the same graphics processor. They all have a custom, slightly beefed up 860M. So whether you buy the entry-level Core i3 or the top-of-the-line Core i7, Alienware Alpha, you're getting the same graphics processors. And it's kind of like you're making a machine for gaming, and the graphics processor is the most important aspect of a gaming PC. Really? Like, you're putting the same, like, wouldn't you want the incentive to be, I wish they almost made, like, their top-of-the-line Alienware Alpha be a Core i5 with, like, a GTX 970 mobile chip in there. That would have been more of an incentive to go to the top-of-the-line Alienware Alpha, but they decided to keep it an 860M, a custom, beefed-up 860M across the board. The last thing I'll mention, also regarding the graphics processor, is the fact that you cannot upgrade the GPU in here. Now, of course, you're going to say, Rich, it's a custom GPU. It's something small. They had to do something small form factor. It's a mobile chip. What do you expect them to do? What they should have done is, even if it was a custom socket design that Alienware made up, they should have done something custom where you could pop out whatever GPU is in here, order it from Alienware in the future, and you could upgrade it later on. Even if it was solely only for this and only could get it through Alienware, hell, they would have made money off of it. They can charge a premium for it, and it would have been it would have made people more secure in purchasing this, knowing that in the future they could upgrade it. Because I'm going to kind of go off on a rant here, but whatever. A lot of people, there's a myth about PC gaming, but it still kind of applies to this, though, that people think, oh, whatever, people who are console gamers or solely console gamers think that, oh, if I buy a gaming PC, I have to upgrade my hardware every 6 months. That's not true. I mean, you could still have a GTX 480 right now and play like 95% of the modern games. A GTX 480 is an NVIDIA graphics card that came out in 2009. Okay, that was 6 years ago. And you could still play 95% of what's out there. So that's not true. However, though, the 860M, the custom 860M is in here, you already kind of have to cut back on the settings. You can't do everything maxed out at 1080p. So this chip is already showing its age a little bit. And on top of it, too, when it comes to PC games, you can't optimize PC games like the way you optimize console games. When a developer makes a game for a console, they know that it's the same hardware across the board, okay? And when they make a game for a console, they know how to optimize the game for that hardware. When you make a game for PC, there's a billion different PCs with a billion different hardware variants, so you can't optimize it as well, and that's why PCs don't age as well, even though you don't have to upgrade the hardware every 6 months like people want you to believe. That's why PCs don't age as well as consoles, because of the fact there's no way a developer could optimize games for a PC when there's so many variants out there. So, like they do for consoles, where they can optimize the game for consoles. So this thing is not going to have, like, say a PlayStation 4 may have a 6 or 7 year shelf life, or minimum 5. This thing, at best, you're going to get 2 years, 2.5 years out of it. So you're spending more on this. And yeah, I know the games are cheaper on PC. We can go into that argument too. But I don't want to make this video 3 hours. You're spending more on this, and you're going to get less of a return out of it if you're only looking to use it to game on. And that's another place that I think the Alienware failed. They should have put in a beefier GPU in here to give this thing a longer shelf life. So at the end of the day, do I recommend it? It depends on what you're looking for. That's the bottom line. All right, folks, this is Rich of Review Tech USA. Make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting my channel. Have a good one.